ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिरिवोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यः साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्रचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यभिमः योगीव यस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। Om. This mantra number 8. Manomayah prana sharira neta patisthitonnye hridayam sannidhaya tadvijnanena paripashyanti dhiraha anandarupam amrutam yadvibhati. So this has been said here. This self which is Sarvajnaha, which is Sarveshwaraha, which knows everything in general and also knows everything in detail, the same self, well, this is its glory, the whole world is glory, and that self abides in the buddhi here. Well, the buddhi which is conscious proves that, well, the self is which abides in this buddhi, and that self is nothing but this entire creation. That the entire creation is glory. That self knows everything in general as well as in detail. So Ishvara. And well, then it says Manomayah prana sharira neta, the self, well, which has this mind as a upadhi basically, and which leads this subtle body from one gross body to the other body, and is also basis for the, where it says hridaya anne pratisthitah hridayam sannidhaya, so which is a basis for the buddhi and abides in this physical body. Tad vijnanena means by knowing self in this manner as such, dhiraha paripashyanti, while this discriminative people basically clearly recognize this amritam ananda rupam yadvibhati, they know this self as immortal, etc., and which is of the nature of ananda, etc. So this knowledge, well, what kind of a benefit one gains from the knowledge, we were discussing that, and that is this tad vijnanena, means atma vijnanena, dhiraha paripashyanti ananda rupam amritam yadvibhati, etc. So we were saying that by knowing this atma tattva, which is nothing but ananda rupam, which is of the nature of ananda. So, well, it is not an experienced ananda, we were discussing that, it is ananda swarupa. And experience happiness is in the mind, it's located. And in the experience of happiness also, the mind assumes a particular thought, and well, which is called a shanta vritti. And any person can get it. One need not have that, one need not have to know oneself. That ananda is basically a karma phala, which is experienced, is a karma phala. It is there for some time and it goes away also. And so this happiness, well, which is obtained in the mind, which is experienced, ananda anubhava, well, is the one because of which the person, keeps going. Otherwise, there is no hope in the life to live longer. Because of these moments of happiness, only person keeps going. And that experience ananda alone reveals the self basically. Ananda Swarupa, it is oneself. And because Why they say like this? Because in a experience of Ananda, there is a freedom from limitation. And limitlessness is the nature of Atma. So if you are experiencing limitlessness, means freedom from limitation, then you are experiencing yourself, actually. And we have seen also that the Ananda does not come from any object. Ananda does not come at a particular time. Ananda does not come from a particular place. Ananda does not come from a certain characteristic of a object. Nothing. And still one experiencing Ananda, and in that Ananda there is a freedom from limitation centered on the self. You feel that you are not having any limitation at this moment, then you are experiencing yourself as a limitlessness. And that is the nature of Atma. So in fact, in an experience of Ananda also, one is definitely experiencing oneself. But not knowing, and the mind is extrovert, senses are extrovert, and since you have already concluded, the self-conclusion, which is nothing but a self-error, that, well, I am a very limited entity, and therefore you always look to the objects outside for getting Ananda. And so you always project that happiness is coming from so and so object, or at a particular time, at a particular place, etc. But as such, we analyzed before, in Atma Viveka itself, we have analyzed that happiness is the nature of the self. So in moment of happiness also, you are experiencing yourself. But you are experiencing in form of a vritti, and therefore there will be a degree of happiness also. And in experience, there will be a degree. Priya, Moda, Pramoda, etc. So sometimes you feel more happy, sometimes you feel ecstatic also. So all these things are possible. So anyway, and one experiencing actually oneself only. And that's how one wants to be that person always. And therefore I really later, because that's my height, I have experienced. Even by gaining an object of happiness, but I have experienced that kind of a thing where there is a totally freedom from all limitations. And therefore, then once it goes away, being a karmaphala, the vritti also will go away. Then sukhakar vritti, etc. And then, well, definitely you try to get the same experience again and again. You want to be, basically you want to be, so happiness whenever is always centered on the self. Puja Swamiji used to tell that. Happiness is not coming from the object, or happiness is, when you experience happiness, you are just with yourself. You always say, I am happy. You will not say anything that mind is happy, etc. So happiness is always centered on the self. Unhappiness also is centered on the self. But then basically being self-ignorant, you take yourself to be, unhappy, limited being. And well, if that is your nature, suppose you say, I am unhappy, therefore unhappiness is my nature. If unhappiness is your nature, then definitely you will be happy being unhappy. Yeah. You will be happy being unhappy. There will be a total self-acceptance when you are unhappy. There will be a total self-acceptance. And nobody will send you a condolence also, or nobody will say any kind of a sympathetic words to you. In fact, everybody will give you congratulations that you are really unhappy. We are not able to get it, such an amount of unhappiness. And from your face, we are saying how much unhappiness we are experiencing, centered on self. And therefore, really, I congratulate you. Nobody does this job. And therefore, unhappiness is unwanted. And therefore, it is not my nature. It is unnatural. Happiness is unnatural. And that's what I want to give it away. And happiness or unhappiness, even though it is experienced as I am happy and I am unhappy, still, I am happy looks to be very natural state. I don't want to deviate myself from that. When I experience that, well, I don't want to deviate from that state. And therefore, ultimately, even in a moment of joy, you experiencing yourself. And there cannot be, Atma also is Ananda, and object is also Ananda. That can never be possible. The nature of an object will always be, it is very specific. It always belongs to that object only. The source of heat is one alone. You may say there are 1,000 sources, but ultimately it is fire only. It is fire. Same way the source of happiness is just the self, nothing else. The source of knowledge is only one. The source of existence is only one. For these three things, that is called Lakshana. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Means that's a Lakshana. Bhashyakara explains beautifully in Taittiriya Upanishad that these are the qualifications. Visheshana available. Visheshana can leave aside one substance and can be available in something else also. The red color is not a nature of this cloth. Red color will be available in a flower also. Red color will be available something. So that is not the nature or a lakshana of a thing. Lakshana means, it cannot leave that substance and be there in some other source. So in a world, if you find that knowledge, then the source of knowledge is only Atma. The source of existence is Atma. And source of wholeness, limitlessness, or source of happiness is also Atma. There is no other source. The object gives happiness, particular time gives happiness, particular place is a source of happiness. It's all just it's also delusion. And that delusion, does not, till it does not break, person will run after that. And person will run after that, experience that particular object, gain some happiness and leaves that object. One cannot leave if it is a really source of a joy. But then you don't find the same source and same happiness again. Not only that, afterwards it doesn't give you happiness at all. And therefore, all this indicate that Ananda Anubhava and Ananda Swarupa, even the Ananda Anubhava is experiential, means it is momentary and all that. And it only arises when your mind is sattvic, or mind is basically quiet. Then only Atma, which is manifest in the buddhi, becomes clear. So Shanta Vritti. So I am unhappy, I am inadequate, etc., limited, is negated actually when the mind is quiet. And in that negation, Atma is recognized as a free from any sense of limitation. And this is a big discovery, very big discovery. That itself, even understanding at the intellectual level itself gives you vairagya for everything. Vairagya means dispassion. Means, we have seen that. We don't impose upon, superimpose extra value on anything in the creation. And this is this. The particular time, particular place, that is, people impose that this is a source of happiness, etc. A particular object. You don't impose now. That's what it is. So, so no sense of limitation means there is no subject-object duality also. Yeah. If there is a subject and object, you have that, you are aware that I am subject and he is object. Both feel limited. Object is also limited and you are also limited. So definitely definitely in a moment of joy, you don't feel any sense of limitation, then the subject-object duality also should not be there. And that's what is happening. Desire and object of desire become, they as though fuse into one joy. That's how it is happening. And so, and not only in here, in any time, whenever you feel happy, subject-object duality will not be there. Either it may be a deep sleep state, either it may be a nirvikalpaka samadhi also. There will never be a subject-object duality. So that's how they also try, But and the difference between a deep sleep state and this nirvikalpa samadhi is that person is aware that I am nothing. There is nothing other than me. And because he has resolved the mind with a Ashtanga yoga. And the projection is by the mind only. In fact, the pramada and prameya both are nothing but the mind. Pramada, pramada, prameya, our mind, will be seeing that in the 10th chapter of Panchadashi. The mind alone projects. Pramada is also, ahankara. It is aham vritti. And idam vritti also will be in the mind. And therefore the division, which is a projection of the mind, while the mind resolves, that projection, subject-object duality also resolves. That's how in deep sleep state also you have a joy. And in a state of meditation, Nirvikalpa Samadhi especially, there is a joy. Because no Dvaitam, no duality. And in waking state, he also, in a moment of joy, well, whenever your desire got fulfilled and you got an object of desire, then the desirer and object of desire both merges into one flame of joy. And that is what is happening. And therefore you are not aware of yourself as a even subject. That is why suppose you are aware of yourself as an individual, suppose, in a moment of joy, you won't get that much joy. Because again you will remind yourself limitations. While laughing, suppose if I remind myself, hey, you are looking very ugly while you are laughing. That's it. Gone. It's gone. Joy gone. Or somebody says, well, what happened to your teeth? Joy gone. That's how it is. So individual is resolved. That is how Advaita gives a joy. Advaita alone is the swarupa of Ananda. Anyway, not Dvaitam. Dvaitam does not give a joy. Where there is Dvaitam means a sense of limitation. Subject-object duality means subject also is limited and object also is limited. When you count a second thing, well, it's okay. Now, it's over. The subject has a certain boundary and then object also has a certain boundary. That's how you are able to count two. And therefore, ultimately, we should be very clear. This, even though, so one who knows Atma, well, he gains happiness, but in form of nature, in form of his own nature. One knows oneself as a source of happiness. One knows oneself as a fullness. One knows oneself as a limitless. So this is everything is same ultimately. So Satyam Jnanam Anantam or Satchid Ananda. Ananda is nothing but a fullness or etc. only. There is nothing other than that. And so one recognizes, well, in the moment of, here one knows that all the objects basically exist in me alone. They are non-separate from me. Ultimately, I, the consciousness, manifest in the form of subject and object. Well, and therefore I am limitless. Both are mithya actually. So there is no real subject-object division. Subject or object, well, both are manifestation of the self. And thereby he knows himself limitless. So this is called fullness, purnatvam, which is the nature of Atma. And it doesn't go and it doesn't come. That's how it is. So once you know you are Ananda, well, you will leave all the efforts to become happy. You give it away. All kamas also will go away. Sarvan kaman samashnuta iti. That's how yesterday we said, this kama will not be there once you know yourself as a fullness. Because, Ananda Anubhava comes and goes. Once you know you are Ananda, fullness, where the fullness will go, where the limitlessness will go. It cannot go, it cannot come. Okay, this is one result of gaining this knowledge, knowing this Atma as all knowledge. Atma is a Sarvagnya, Sarveshwaraha, or Atma is nothing but a Manomayaha, Prana Sharira Neta, etc. The consciousness alone is like this. And there is no individuality. This individual is just a born of ignorance, etc., etc. So we have seen that. And this individuality will get removed when this ignorance goes away. And you will find only consciousness, along consciousness as adhishthanam, and all the names and forms are non-separate from it. Well, definitely cause and effect. Everything is just one thing alone, that is me. That's the real I. I as a jiva under the spell of ignorance. Now I as everything is the self. That's the self-knowledge. So this is how, I think it's clear to you now fairly. And so, I was struggling since few days that jiva, Ishvara, etc. Now second thing is one gains amrutatvam. Amrutatvam means you know yourself that you are free from time, effect of the time, or you are free from the time. You are not subject to time. That's called immortality. I am not subject to time. That's all. By knowing it well, then once you know that you are not subject to time, you become free from the fear of death also. So this is how it is. And so by negation of death, well, there is negation of all other vikaras also. And well, jayate asti vardhate viparinamate apakshite vinashyati. So if death is not there, then other vikaras are also not there. So you are free from birth also. And so you are free from birth and death, everything. Free from, you are not subject to time, means you are free from birth and death. And I am subject to time is a biography of a ignorant Atma, Jiva, conditioned Atma, ignorant Atma. Is a biography of individual, ultimately. So then once ignorance goes away, this biography gets dropped, that I am subject to time and I am subject to birth and death. And who sees all this? Who are these lucky people? Well, dhiraha paripashyanti. So, thinking people, well, dhiraha means vivekinaha actually. Word dhiraha is always in Shastra. One who is able to do viveka. Which viveka? Ahankara, Atma viveka. Yeah, I am not an individual. That's a final viveka. I am not a jiva. This is all purely a brood of ignorance. To take myself as an entity is purely brood of ignorance. In fact, all so-called entities are because of the consciousness that is my real nature. Yeah, consciousness lends existence. That's how that it becomes entity. Otherwise, where is entity? Entity means which is self-existent. There is no self-existent. Only self-existence is Atma, because of which all the entities are there. And that Atma is not an entity. We say Atma is entity. It is not an entity. It's there all the time, and it provides an existence to all names and forms, and by which they become an entity. Anyway, so dhiraha, these people who are vivekinaha, who are these discriminative people, who knows this Atma Tattva clearly, paripashyanti, they clearly see this. And well, how do they see? Naturally. Paripashyanti means they definitely, they expose themselves to the teaching of the Acharya in keeping with the vision of the Shastra. I am a traditional teacher who knows the Sampradaya, etc. And then definitely they gain this knowledge. Gaining knowledge is a shading of ignorance. There's nothing else. Shading of ignorance. And shading of the reality pertaining to all these things, I taking myself as an individual. Now as you know your reality, as you know your nature, slowly I am knower, etc. loses the significance. That's the only thing. So your shading of ignorance and the notions born of ignorance, that I am karta, bhokta, I am a pramata, etc. All these things now lose significance. That is called knowledge. So, that one gains this knowledge anyway. And this seeing, paripashyanti, they always say like this, seeing. Knowing is, seeing is knowing. In as much as, in any seeing, in any sight, there is always a finality. There is no doubt. There is no doubt. Yeah, if something is heard, there may be a doubt. That's how even in the court, evidence is the eyewitness, not the ear witness. There is no ear witness. Even that person may say that I have heard that the shots, and therefore, this person might have done that. No. Have you seen the person who was shooting? Did you see? Yeah, I saw. Well, that will be taken into account. So, eyewitness is taken as final, means what? The sight is final. There is no doubt. Same way, that's how the knowledge is final. Knowing oneself free from doubt. That's how they always use. Knowing, seeing is knowing. Always they write pashyanti, drashtabhya. In next verse also it is going to be there. Same. Tasmin drashte paravare. So, atmavare drashtabhya. So, all this is everywhere. Atma should be seen, etc. So, anyway, seeing takes place in the form of a vritti. And all that is, and what kind of vritti? All that is here is this Brahman, that is myself. And that vritti removes ignorance also, which is there in the buddhi. And then after removing ignorance, it goes away. So I am Brahman, everything is Brahman and that is me. It doesn't remain all the time. It doesn't remain. Vritti gives a knowledge and then vision will remain. Like you once you know this is a computer. When you tell me this is a computer, I have seen it, and a thought arises in my mind. Now that thought also goes away, but leaves behind the vision. I will never forget now this is computer. This is how it is. So this akhandakar vritti, brahmakar vritti, well also is like this. We call it as akhandakar vritti because this is a thought wherein there is no subject-object division. He is seeing subject-object division, but in a buddhi he knows subject and object both are definitely superimposed upon me. They are non-separate from me, and therefore ultimately I am them. I am both of them, and even transcend both of them. They are all just mithya. They are mithya things, but both are superimposed upon me. So that's called akhandakar vritti. So you see something else, but then in your buddhi, it's all, everything is Brahman, that is myself. So vritti is called akhandakar vritti when this, a thought wherein there is no subject-object division. Both subject and object, even after seeing with the eyes, in your mind, this thing occurs. The subject and object are oneself. Subject and object are oneself. That is Brahman. And all subject and object, so-called subject-object, are superimposed upon the self. All the objects exist in me, that is consciousness, that is limitless consciousness, that is Brahman, including space, etc. And therefore the object of knowledge and the knower, both are superimposed upon me. So this is akhandakar vritti, brahmakar vritti. And it arises and it goes away, leaves behind the vision. Vision remains. Anyway, so this is the meaning of the mantra. Let's go to mantra number 9, which is very, very popular. Vidyate hridaya granthihi chidyante sarva samshayaha kshiyante chasya karmani tasmin drashte paravare. So again one wants to know what happens after knowledge. So vidyate hridaya granthihi chidyante sarva samshaya. 3 results are given. Vidyate hridaya granthi ajnana granthi, avidya granthi, chidyante sarva samshayaha, and kshiyante asya jnaninaha, asya purushasya karmani kshiyante. When tasmin drishte paravare sati, when the Brahman which is in the form of a cause and effect, or which is in the form of a jiva and Ishvara, well, that is recognized, that I the self is in the form of jiva and Ishvara both, or I the self which is in the form of cause and effect both. Well, so this is tasmin drishte paravare, all are in 7th case. That's called sati saptami. Sati saptami. Well, it's called locative absolute. And it is always written when this thing arises, like that. That's how it is. So when one knows, one recognizes oneself as cause and effect both, means by everything. I know I am everything. Once you know that, then this thing, this avidya granthi, chidyante, etc., his all actions are also, all karmas get exhausted, all his doubts get resolved, and the knot of ignorance of this also of heart goes away, destroys. This is all the result has been told. One knows oneself. So first is this tasmin drishte paravare. So tasmin drishte paravare. This Brahman is called paravara. Paravara. And so para means which exists before, and avara, which comes later. So what exists before is a cause. What comes later is effect. And therefore, Brahman is paravara, means Brahman is in the form of cause and effect both. Effect is what? Jagat. And including one's body, mind, sense complex. And well, it is mithya. And being mithya, it depends upon the Satyam, Brahma, and which is Brahman, and therefore is non-separate from Brahman. And therefore, well, Brahman only, both cause and effect are nothing but Brahman. So, para also can be taken like this. Cause and avara means an effect. Cause and effect are nothing but this Brahman alone. That is myself. Consciousness, limitless consciousness. Nothing is away from consciousness. Everything is non-separate from consciousness. As I told you very well, so when you say the world is, space is, this is, it automatically proves that you are. It automatically proves. When I say you are, that, the sight takes place. The object is there, the tree is there, then this particular color is there, that is there, this form is there. Well, automatically proves eyes are there. And therefore, eyes need not be proven. Need not be proven. Eyes, definitely, if eyes are there, then only all these things are there. If camera alone is there, then the photograph can come. But in photograph, I am not seeing camera. Therefore, well, there is no camera. That's too much. So when object of knowledge is there, automatically proves consciousness is there. And therefore, space consciousness is. Time consciousness is. Fire consciousness is. Automatically you have to bring consciousness is. So that consciousness is consciousness is. So the consciousness is, which is the nature of existence. Or what is existence is nothing but the consciousness. Because you say fire is equal to fire consciousness is. Therefore, isness and consciousness goes together. And therefore, what is consciousness is existence. What is existence is consciousness. Sat is Chit, Chit is Sat. Yeah. And so bring to yourself all the time. Never try that way. We have seen also in the last mantra, never try. Their existence is there, therefore consciousness also is there. No. Take it here. Consciousness is consciousness in the buddhi. Therefore, everything you recognize in the buddhi, and therefore, well, there itself you recognize Brahman as a basis of our entire thing. And therefore, everything is. That's your recognition. But that recognition in the buddhi, whole Jagat is. Okay, whole Jagat is recognized. Then Brahman also has to be recognized where Jagat is recognized. And therefore, so near. Never try anywhere. And it's going to be a fruitless thing. Even though we say existence and common and we can do everything. But not. Brahman is recognized only in the buddhi. Only in the buddhi. That's the only upalabdhi sthanam. Even though Brahman is all pervading. Brahman is pervading entire Jagat. But entire Jagat is recognized in the buddhi. There then Brahman also should be recognized in the buddhi. Pervading entire Jagat. Therefore, this should be very clear, and therefore, that is so close, so close. That is you. In fact, you only manifest in the buddhi as aham vritti, etc. Anyway, so both here para and avara also can be understood in form of para is a Ishvara and avara means a jiva naturally. Para means which is superior. Avara means which is inferior. Naturally, superior attributes, Ishvara, inferior attributes, Jiva. Naturally. So, Jiva and Ishvara both are nothing but this Brahman alone. And therefore, what is Samashti, what is total, what is Jagat Karanam? Well, definitely. And what is this Jiva? Both are ultimately Brahman alone. Therefore, they are identical. And so, the difference between them, because why they are identical? Because the difference between them is Mithya. The difference between Jiva and Ishvara are Mithya. Because you are differentiating it based on Upadhi. It's maybe a Vidya or a Maya. Well, that is Mithya. That is non-separate from Brahman. And therefore, Jiva and Ishvara, well, Upadhi difference you say, but the Upadhi itself are Mithya. And therefore, the difference between them is Mithya. And therefore, you are Brahman. That is Satyam. You are Brahman, that is Satyam. So, Paravara is equal to Jiva plus Ishvara. Well, both is equal to Brahman. Ultimately, both are Brahman, I mean. And or Jiva and Ishvara, Paravara is equal to cause and effect. Cause is always superior. Cause is always superior. Effect is, always inferior. Because effect totally is dependent, starting from existence and evidence. It is dependent on the cause. And therefore, cause effect, well, no problem. Cause effect also. Cause is Brahman, effect is non-separate from Brahman, which is cause. So then Brahman alone manifests as cause and effect. What is non-separate will be essentially the cause. Non-separate is always effect. That is essentially the cause only. Pot is non-separate from the clay, right? Pot is non-separate from the clay. So essentially both are clay only. So cause, but Swamiji, then clay, but you are saying clay as a cause and clay you are saying as essence. But that cause is a causal status. It's a status with respect to the effect called pot. When the status of effect goes away, well, the pot itself, well, we don't take it as an effect. We say it is clay. The causal status also goes away. So cause and effect basically are one thing alone, essentially. And therefore here, paravara is equal to Brahman. Para means cause and avara means effect. Both are essentially one thing. That is Brahman. So tasmin paravare drishte sati, when that Brahman which is both para and avara is seen, and that again I am saying, repeating the same thing. The seen in the Shastra is always used for known. Right? Okay. And that is so Brahman is recognized as oneself, which is nothing but this cause and effect, which is everything. Starting from space, everything. Because space is also effect. Vayu is effect. Everything is effect. So Maya is effect. No. Maya is not effect. Maya is a cause. But then you are saying Brahman as a cause. Yeah. Maya is a cause or Brahman is a cause? Maya is a cause. I am asking you finally. Yeah, Brahman is a cause. Brahman is a cause. Maya is non-separate. So ultimately you can say Brahman is a cause. Brahman without being a cause is cause. Right? Just being present. Well, it is a cause of the entire creation. Maya is a parinami padan karanam. Brahman is, well, a vivarta. Anyway. So, vidyate hridaya granthi. So, now, what is the result? While knowing this Brahman is cause and effect, etc., and which is free from doubt, etc., right? So, drishte sati. So, it is seen, means it is known very clearly, doubt-free, knowledge I have. Then what result I will get? Oh, vidyate hridaya granthi, the knot of hridaya granthi means this avidya granthi, the knot of ignorance is resolved once ignorance goes away, basically. So going away of ignorance is called seeing. Going away of ignorance is called knowledge. So this knowledge takes place, well, differently from all other knowledges. Atma Jnanam and all other knowledges, a big difference. And that difference is very internal difference, we should know. In other forms of knowledge, Atma has got to be there as the knower, separate from, independent of object of knowledge. All other knowledges. He has to be independent of object of knowledge. In order to recognize the object of knowledge, the knower must be different. Knower must be different. Wow. So knower, I know the part. So if you remember, we started with this. There are two things in the creation. One is a knower, other is object, other is a known. Right? That's how we started. The knower I can never be the object of knowledge. We have seen also. And we used to give an example of a donkey also, right? Donkey is an object of knowledge. And I am a knower. Knower and known cannot be one. So we always say that. Anyway, so the knower, in all knowledges, the knower, well, has to be there, independent of the object of knowledge. Then only the knowledge takes place. So in order to recognize the object of knowledge, well, definitely the knower has to be independent of it. So with reference to self-knowledge, on the other hand, well, the knower does not remain as a separate entity other than the Atma, which is an object of knowledge. It's a big difference. So because here in the self-knowledge, you are recognizing that very knower is this Atma or Brahman. very knower is Brahman. So even though we say self-knowledge or Brahma Jnanam, means Brahma Jnanam means basically the Jnanam, knowledge whose object is Brahman. But then that Brahman is not separate from the knower, which is the case in other knowledges. Yes, please, this is a very crucial thing, and therefore many people will drop also. But I am going to stick to this thing, this Puja Swamiji's teaching only, which will give you a tremendous clarity. All teachers are good, but I am just saying you, this is discussed, this nuances has to be discussed. What I am saying is, so this is the knower, cannot remain as a separate entity, because he has to recognize Brahman, right? Like I have to recognize a donkey, then a knower has to be separate entity, other than the object of knowledge called donkey, which is not the case here. Well, in order to recognize Brahman, my separate existence of knower should be there. No, sir, the knower is Brahman. So the knower, cannot remain as a separate entity. If knower remains as a separate entity in a Brahma Jnanam, there is no Brahma Jnanam. There is no Brahma Jnanam. Ahankara remains as a separate entity. Means Ahankara is Satyam. In that case, where is Brahma Jnanam? So basically, Atma is not going to be to be seen as an object like a donkey, etc. And therefore the knowledge removes this ignorance and ignorance-based notion that I am a knower, I am a doer, etc. All ignorance-based notions are plenty. And all this are slowly dropped. All the knowerhood and doerhood and I am experiencer, bhokta, etc. Everything is slowly dropped. It's going away. How it is going away? Because the ignorance is going away. How ignorance is going away? Because I am really, being awakened to myself that I am limitless consciousness, yeah. And therefore this entity called this ahankara, etc., or pramata, karta, bhokta, etc., slowly go away. They become mithya, they don't go away. When you negate anything by knowledge, that's product of ignorance only. When you negate anything by knowledge of that thing, ultimately, then it was born of ignorance. It goes away. So in this removal, there is this recognition that all that is here at all the times is one Brahman. What is now and here is me alone. That is Brahman. What is now and here is Brahman. And therefore, I am karta, bhokta. Now and here I am karta, I am bhokta, etc. slowly get dropped. So nothing else then goes away and comes in. Karta, bhokta alone, they come and go, yeah, that's true. Karta, bhokta, pramata come and go, yeah. But I am Brahman, who never goes away, who never comes. It is all the time, now and here. So and therefore, so you are everything. You are here and all the time you are this limitless. Definitely then the desire to be somebody also will not remain. That's called samsara. So I am samsari. When I say I want to become something, then definitely I am a samsari. Life of becoming, right? Life of becoming. That desire itself will drop. Because what you want to become, that you are already. You are everything means what? And therefore, when the sense of this doership, etc. also go away, the reality given to this accessories also of action, objects and instrument, all karakas, we know this. All the karakas, with the help of those accessories called karakas, I was doing an action. The first karaka is this doer. The second karaka is object of action. Third karaka is instrument of action. Fourth is a purpose of action. And then the location of the action. All these are karaka. They are accessories to help for doing an action and gaining some purpose. Serving it serves a purpose. And so all are dropped because the very doership goes away. I am Brahman, I am not a doer. Anyway, so this so previously the accessories of the action were taken as real, but now all of them are badita. Badita means what is negated by knowledge is called mithya. That's all we have to keep in mind. What is negated by knowledge? What is destroyed by physical action is not we are talking about, and that is not possible. What is negated or so-called destruction by knowledge? Well, that's alone is required, and therefore the doership is something which will hang there after knowledge, and that person while doing any kind of a vyavahara, as empirical reality, that will be there. He may say, I am a doer. I did this action. He may say also, a jnani may say like that. Oh, I talked to that person. So, you are a talker? Yeah, I am a talker. So, and I ate the food. Oh, you are eater? Yeah, I am eater. Brahman doesn't eat. Yeah, I know. But I am eater. Okay? So, what is negated by knowledge will hang around. What is negated by knowledge called sunrise will be there always. Okay? There is no sunrise, but still sunrise will be there. Okay? Yeah, that will be there. You negate the blue sky, but then the blue sky will hang around. This is what mithya is. And therefore, the ego is negated, ahankara is negated, pramatrutvam, bhoktrutvam, kartrutvam, negated. In wake of the knowledge from the Shastra and the teacher that you are Brahman, you are limitless Brahman. Oh, then you realize it. Then the very doership, then knowerhood, all this slowly negate. So ignorance is going away, then this ignorance-born notions, doership, etc. also goes away. And then they after becoming mithya, after I'm gaining knowledge, now I am totally awake of myself, well aware of myself that I am consciousness. Then this still doership and all, they are there all around. But they are mithya, badhitam. So the ahankara has become badhitam, sublated, negated. Sublated means here negated by knowledge. Two types of destruction, either physical and the one is cognitive. Yeah. The sarpa is destroyed, right, by knowledge, on ignorance, on rope, on rope. So what is negated by knowledge is in the different category. We put it in a badhitam, mithya. And so, now since the doer is not there, karma is not there, karakas are not, but what happened to that instrument of action and what happened to the, doer is basically Brahman. Okay, what about the instruments of action? He says that I am limitless. I am limitless consciousness. Then all these karakas are also become Brahman. Then where is a karaka hood? There is no karaka hood. So this particular is, I am a doer. If you are a doer, well, there is an object of action. If you are a doer, then there is action also is there. If you are a doer, then the location of action is there. If you are a doer, the purpose of action is there. If you are a doer, instrument of action is there. If you say I am Brahman, which is limitless, then all karakas, starting from the first karaka called kartrukaraka, all become mithya. And therefore the jnani's actions are really not producing action. They are just karma abhasa. It's just abhasa. Like sunrise is abhasa for a scientist. Same thing. Karta is abhasa. Karma is abhasa. The object of action is abhasa. Instruments, everything is abhasa. If they are different from you, the doer, instrument of action is different from the doer, I. Well, where is the knowledge? I am Brahman means what? Definitely. So the karakas basically are sublated, means they are negated in with the help of this self-knowledge, Brahmajnana. And therefore this karma itself is abhasa, there is no doership, and therefore karma phala also does not accrue to this person. So there is no agami. There is no agami. And sanchita also will be burnt later naturally because That way they will be talking in this mantra itself. Kshiyante chasya karmani, they will talk. So anyway, but here the very important thing is they say this granthi. Granthi means a knot. So here the vidya granthi goes away. So this knot is destroyed, called avidya. So why it is called knot? Actually avidya is there, you have to take three things. Avidya, kama and karma, and we have to add few things based on our knowledge of Atma and Atma Viveka. So avidya, kama, karma, these three things constitute a knot. And that is where the bondage is. That is where the samsara is. That's how Bhashyakara's definition of samsara is this: avidya, kama, karma, lakshana. So that alone is called. So avidya, kama, karma are all basically this. They are considered knot, because by knot actually, knot always ties up with him. You are bound. So Atma, which is physically free, limitless, is bound to this body by avidya, right? Bound to this body by this avidya, and this original cause, and bound is as to bound, right? Otherwise, if you are bound, if you are conditioned by the body, then you will not be called that by Mahavakya that you are Brahman. You should say, yeah, I am a jiva only, I am individual only. So you are as though bound. This as though bondage you know very well. As though bondage. Sometimes they tie this donkeys as though. Yeah. That washerman, ties donkey. He used to tie every day. Really was tying. One day he forgot that, he lost that rope. Then he was worrying that if I go to this river for washing all these clothes, and then this donkey, if I won't tie it, it will run away somewhere. Then, I'm a very poor person, and even this donkey whose help I take every day for bringing all the clothes, if I lose the donkey, what will happen? So then somebody advised that, you tie a donkey. Yeah, but where is rope? Don't worry, as though you have a rope, and put it on the, and do around the neck, and then tie it at a particular place in that. So you do as though, everything you do as though, as if you have a rope. For you also it is as though, but for a donkey it is real. So, and then you do that, and really, it worked. It worked. The whole day he washed so many clothes, and when he came back, the donkey was still there. Then he put all the clothes, and then he started beating. Okay, run. But donkey was not going. Because in his eyes there is no rope at all, and therefore he thought the donkey will, start moving. But it did not move. Then he has to untie everything as though. Oh, donkey which was free to begin with considered himself as a bound, and as though he was released. My God, every jiva is like this. There is no bondage at all. Entire bondage is based on avidya. I am bound. Bas, I am bound. That notion itself is a bondage. There is no other bondage. You are free. Right? It's a wonderful example. But only thing is, we should not too much extrapolate, donkey here in example and here jiva, then you will be donkey as though bound was released from the bondage. Anyway, so this is how it is. So avidya is avidya by which the free Atma, all pervasive Atma is as though bound to this body. And then, avidya gives rise to kama. Now I have to explain you this thing. See, the self-ignorance, these are the steps in Atma and Atma Viveka. It's not new. We have done it on page number 2. Okay, I am telling you the page number 2 and 3. All the steps have been discussed. Very wonderful, very wonderful. Generally, acharyas won't discuss like that. They will say avidya is a bondage or karma is a bondage. They say like that. But how? So, because of self-ignorance, well, then there will be aviveka. Self-ignorance means I don't know the self. And I don't know the non-self also. And then aviveka arises. Non-self is taken as a self, and self is taken as non-self. Non-self is superimposed upon self, means non-self is taken as self. And self is also taken as non-self. Because I don't know both. If I know non-self, anatma if I know, as anatma, where is the question of ignorance? Even you must be knowing self also then. So, this aviveka arises. And this non-self means this body-mind sense complex is taken as a self, means well, definitely ego, ahankara arises from aviveka. I am this body, I am this mind, I am senses, etc. A individual, a sense of individuality, conditioned consciousness. Condition, as though, you know. Whenever conditioned consciousness comes, you bring an example of a pot space. The space conditioned by the pot is really not conditioned, you know very well. There is one space in which the whole pot also is. But anyway, it gives rise to a notion of a pot space. Anyway, and therefore, afterwards, then ego arises, ahankara arises naturally, because you take, in light of this non-discrimination, you take body, mind, sense complex as yourself. And then definitely you feel a sense of limitation because body is limited, mind is limited, senses are limited. And you feel a sense of limitation. But that's okay. That's okay, yeah. But then that's not you really. You are limitless. But not knowing yourself and because of non-discrimination, you take body, mind, sense complex as yourself, which is unnatural. And therefore you want to get rid of the sense of limitation. Centered on oneself, you feel a sense of limitation, lack, etc. You want to get rid of. And then to get rid of that lack, a desire arises. Kama arises. So from avidya, kama arises. And to fulfill desire, you have to do action. Right? You will fulfill the desire of an object. You have a desire for an object, I'm sorry. And to gain that object which is not with you. If it is with you, where is the question of having a kama at all? What is with you? You do not have a desire. Desire is for something which you don't have. And which you feel that will promise, will give me some happiness. Will relieve me from the sense of limitation. And therefore you will have a kama, desire for, depending upon, of course, ragadvesha also. So a desire arises, which leads to karma. And then karma gives rise to karma phala. And then karma phala, definitely in terms of punya papa. And all karma phalas also you cannot exhaust in one life. So you should be given another life. So means Atma is as though bound again and again due to self-ignorance. Clear now? Avidya, kama, karma. Because again you enter into this body, taking yourself as a jiva. Again feeling the sense of bondage. Till death you keep on having a number of desires and fulfill the desires. For that you do a lot of actions. Then karma phala will come. And then karma phala will give rise to another body. So as you have a sense of bondage. So you are tied. You are bound. You the self, the consciousness, limitless consciousness which is free. By nature you are free. Is tied down to avidya, kama, karma. Here mantra says avidya granthi. So you are tied by the knot of avidya. But you should consider both. And ultimately, but Swamiji, it is avidya granthi, but what is tied is ultimately ahankara, jiva only. Consciousness cannot be tied. Yeah, but then notion arises. That's how I told you. Avidya, self-ignorance, give rise to non-discrimination. And then that will give rise to then a ego is born. And that ego, ahankara only, is tied to, that is jiva, is tied to kama. He has a number of kamas. And dependent upon, he wants to fulfill many desires and many karmas will be done. karma phala will be accrued also. That also will be experienced by this jiva only. Anyway, so when that avidya goes away, and so this continues. Yeah, this will continue as long as avidya is there. Once that avidya goes away, the samsara characterized by this birth, death, etc. also will go away. This is how the things are. Clear? I think this is very, Atmanatma Viveka is helping us a lot. That those steps are really good. Every place, Acharya won't discuss each and every step, but sometime in some places we will find some, especially primary books, it is very good. Anyway, so we'll keep it up to this point and then we'll discuss some more things. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.